Hi, welcome back to Carnivore Nation. This is the beginner's guide to the carnivore diet. For those that want to consider going on carnivore, I think you need to ask yourself a few questions. And the questions that you need to know is, what is it you're looking for and why are you considering it? So for me, I at the time had tried numerous diets unsuccessfully, or some with minimal success but ended up in a worse place. I was obese, bordering on clinically obese.
No more cake!
I had some health issues, I was pre-diabetic, I had blood pressure, I was stressed, wasn't sleeping well, was snoring. I'd just been diagnosed with skin cancer. So I needed to do something to change. So that was my why and what for. The next bit of advice I would say is to do research, research and research again. There is plenty of information out there. I found YouTube the most useful. There are a number of influencers out there that can give you really good advice and really good information about what's going on. If you're not sure about certain things, put it into YouTube. There is bound to be something there to do it. But just make sure, don't just follow the first one, check it. There's a number of influencers out there that are all really, really thorough. Let's define what carnivore really is. You start off with the omnivore, which basically eats everything on the plate. Then you've got the pescatarian who won't eat necessarily meat, but will have fish, as well as other items. Then you've got the vegetarian who will have dairy and grains and pulses and all the various bits. You've got the vegan that's stricter and doesn't have dairy or any animal products at all. And then you've got carnivore, which is predominantly meat, dairy, including fat, and water and salt. Once you've done the research, the next stage, and probably the most important, is to get professional medical advice. Every individual has their own personal circumstances, and only you and your medical professionals can understand what your desperate needs are. But what I would say is, don't just toe the line and just be assigned onto statins, etc. Question it, use the information you've learned from the research and the studies that you've done, and make sure you're getting the advice that suits you personally. But firstly, make sure you get that correct advice. The next stage is to decide if you're going to go cold turkey, like I did, or try and do a gradual approach. Having done the cold turkey and seen some of the pitfalls in going straight into it head first, personally, I would always recommend that you did it slightly gradually. So over a number of days, cut out all the ultra processed foods and try to go to what is called real whole food. So it's a single ingredient. So if it's one ingredient, that's a whole food. If it's multiple ingredients and it's processed, then it's ultra processed. So don't try and come away from that. Cut out the sugars, cut out a lot of the hidden sugars in glucose and all that. But if you can gradually build to it, then you go on to the carnivore, which the best basis to going onto a carnivore is BBBE. So that is beef, bacon, butter and eggs. If you use that as your standard for each meal, you're not going to go far wrong. You can add other bits in. I used to do chicken wings, but make sure you eat the skin. When you start eating any leaner meat, add fat to your diet. Fat is absolutely crucial and important to be on the carnivore diet. Between the protein you get from the fatty meats, the fat themselves, the salt and the water, you can get all the micronutrients that you need. If you are concerned about lacking in certain, you can take electrolytes as well as an additional top up. But if you're getting the fat and the salt balance right, you shouldn't need it. What can you expect on the first few days? Your body is going to go for a transitional change. So depending on how gradually you've done it, or if you, like me, went cold turkey, your whole microbiome is going to change. So your body needs to adjust, and it takes a few days to do. So don't be surprised if you have some diarrhea. Don't be surprised if you end up constipated. If you are ending up constipated, increase the fat intake. And I mean animal fat. The more, because what they'll do, the body will absorb the fat it needs, and what it doesn't need, it will then push out through the bowel, and it's that softening of the fat that softens the stools that makes it easier to pass. You will master it in a few weeks. It really is that simple. So get rid of the crap in the house. Get rid of all the crisps and the biscuits, all the rubbish. I do have dairy, but for that first month, I would personally, I found best that I cut out a lot of dairy. I had butter and I had high fat creams or yogurts, but I didn't tend to do cheese that much. I did introduce cheese back in after a period of time, and I still am limited of how much I take in. But think of fat, fat and fat. That's really what you want. The body needs the fat as well as the protein on the carnivore. There's a misdemeanor that it's all just protein, and it's not lean meat. You want the fatty meat, so it's the ribeyes. If you have a sirloin, eat the fat on the sirloin. Honestly, your body will thank you for it. Another good tip to do is, once you're starting the carnivore, do some planned meals. So again, make sure you've got plenty of eggs, you've got plenty of fatty meat. You don't have to get ribeye steaks all the time. I enjoy a steak, but I also quite regularly go down to any of the supermarkets, or preferably the local butcher, to support local business, and butchers do give you better quality food. And have mince. Have beef mince, lamb mince. Any ruminant meat is ideal, so that can be lamb or sheep, or if you can get bison and things like that, but beef is the ideal standard. So make sure you've got plenty of eggs, make sure you've got plenty of meat, because if you haven't got it, the temptation to go and dip into something is just take away that temptation. Also expect sugar withdrawal. We are all, through the normal standard British or American diet, you are already addicted to sugar. And that is direct sugar, if you're putting it like in your teas and your coffees, as well as the hidden sugars within foods and processed foods. So your brain will naturally want to get you to give those endorphins that sugar bring you, and give you the insulin highs that you're trying to manage. And that way, if you cut out the sugar, you will find within a really reasonably short period of time, 3 or 4 days, you lose a lot of those cravings. So prepping the meals is a good idea. Also, the good thing about carnivore, you don't spend hours and hours having to cook a meal. It's fairly basic. You either cook the bacon, fry the eggs, and that's the other thing. Get rid of all oils. Get rid of all seed oils, and cook only with animal fat, either lard, bacon fat, whatever animal fat you can get your hands on. That's what you want to cook in. If you're not used to it, you will notice the difference taste in your mouth, but you will adapt to it very quickly and find it really, really helpful. One of the best things that I learned about being on this lifestyle is you actually find out the true expert about what you need in your diet is your body. Listen to your body. Your body will tell you when you need something. So for example, if you're starting to feel like you're getting cramps, that's telling you need to increase your magnesium and increase your salts, or take electrolytes, because that is a telltale sign that your body is requiring it. I found early days that first 2 or 3 days, I really, really gorged on meat. So clearly my body needed the protein and the fat. My stores were clearly lower. Even though I was overweight and I was carrying a large amount of fat on my body was telling me it needed feeding. And I went through a frenzy. I was having probably 4 meals a day, or of steak or bacon or eggs, whatever. I was really, really hungry. And then very suddenly, I found myself unexpectedly fasting without even realising it. So I was skipping because I wasn't hungry. I was waking up in the morning and I wasn't hungry. And I'd find that I'd get to lunchtime before I even felt peckish, or I'd even get to late afternoon before I felt peckish. So your body's telling you when it needs feeding. Listen to it. And make sure you're taking on water. If you can afford the better quality water, the sparkling water, then do so. But if you're really on a tight budget, tap water is just as good. but it does contain fluorides and things like that. So if you can try and get onto a more pure water or use a water purifier just to get that slightly better water, that your body will be totally thankful for that. Another tip I would suggest is join a carnivore community. There are plenty on Facebook. There are a number of groups out there. There are WhatsApp groups. In the UK, there's a WhatsApp group. If you're interested, message me and I'll send you a link to it. In the US, they've got a number of groups. They've got I think it's the Beef and Butter Gang. All great little groups, but what you'll find is that when you get times where you're finding it difficult, those groups are fantastic for rallying around you and giving you that extra lift that you need in order to maintain the success. So join a community where you can, and you'll find how support. You'll get tips and you'll get help. You'll also get, and I warn you now, you get a lot of know-alls as well. But at the end of the day, it's better to be in a community. We are like a tribal, humans are tribal, and being in communities will help you develop. In the first month, I would strongly recommend you avoid alcohol. And the reason why I believe that that is the right way to do it is to allow your liver the time to create the biles and do the necessary in order to deal with the body as you transition to be fat adapted, etc. If you're given the liver another job, as in breaking down alcohol, you're not going to get the quick results that you're looking for. So allow your liver time to adjust and create the biles that your body needs in order to break down the proteins in order to get the best benefit. Now, the weirdest thing I found personally on my journey is that I went through stages where I craved fat more than I did the protein. So I added butter to everything. I cooked in more fat. And when I cooked something in the air fryer, like a 25% fat mince, I would pour the fat back over the cooked product and eat that on my plate and absorb the whole lot. You will find your body will crave all these weird and wonderful things. But it's telling you, and it's telling you for a reason. Now, a couple of things you need to be aware of. If you do slip up and you are tempted, don't beat yourself up. Don't give up, because let you into a little secret. There are no carnivore police. No one is going to come and bust your door down and drag you out by the hair and insist that you're going to go away in cuffs because you've broke the rules of the carnivore lifestyle. Don't beat yourself up. What you should do is just review, ask yourself why or how it happened. Why was the temptation there? What could you do differently? And make a promise to yourself or have a contract with yourself to try and do better next time. And start again. Just go. It's that simple. Another thing you need to be aware of is when you start losing weight and your health starts improving, you will be amazed how many people suddenly become a doctor. Now, classic example for me, I was obese. I was not in a good place. I wasn't healthy in any way. I was kidding myself for a number of years. I think we've all done that. Then suddenly I got control of what I was eating and I started getting benefit and I was losing weight and I was getting more energized and I had so many quick improvements. But then everyone suddenly became concerned about my diet and what I was eating and that I was going to have a heart attack and I was going to kill myself by the way I'm eating. Don't listen to it. Stay with it, stay online, and you will see the benefits. Let them see for themselves the evidence of the benefits. There is a lot of research out there showing now that higher cholesterol levels actually are common in people that live longer, and lower cholesterol levels are more likely to have heart issues and other issues going forward in later life. So it's complete bumpkin what we've all been told over these years. That's the reason why I'm aiming to do a PhD, in order to undo all the rubbish that we've been brought up and understood. There's too many influences and there's too many companies that benefit from us as a nation being sick. The food companies gain from it, the pharmaceutical companies gain from it. Healthy people don't make profits. So that is something I'm quite clear on and I'm quite comfortable to try and champion. Another good tip to do is to note your progress. So before you do it, do some measurements. If you've got some scales, great, but weight is not the only solution. It's your other health benefits that you will discover and find. It's just incredible. But what I did a measurements based on my chest, my arms, my tummy and my thigh, and I would measure them once a week. And when you start seeing the differences and the changes, it really motivates you to stay on course. So it's one good way, and it's also great to document so you can see where you are. Do the classic before and progress photos, because again, it will be a reminder to you of where you've come from and where you're going. Couple of areas you need to be cautious of. Socialising. There's always going to be a challenge when out socialising, especially with drinking, especially with other foods, because obviously they don't cater directly for carnivore. If you can, plan it. Try and go to a place that sells a steak or does a breakfast, an all-day breakfast and that, because then you can tweak the order to suit your needs and stay on course. If you have the odd chip, don't beat yourself up. It's not a true crime. But the better you can stick with it, especially in the first month or so, because once you see the results after the first month, your motivation levels will be off the Richter scale. So just be mindful of socialising. There are some carnivores that I've interviewed previously that have remained drinking and have had the odd cheat day and all that, and you can see them in some of the interviews that I've done. But all I would suggest in the earlier days, the first 4, maybe 8 weeks, try and be as firm with cutting out those carbs. Get rid of those carbs, because your body will thank you for it time and time again. So I'm often asked, what type of meals should I do? So again, I go back to the BBBE. So if you could keep in your mindset, so regularly I would do myself a steak, I'd do myself a couple of fried eggs, and I might do some streaky bacon with it, and that would do me nicely. If I still felt hungry, then I would potentially do some mince in the air fryer. Again, pour the fat back over the mince once it's done. Or if you don't want to put all the fat on it, store the rest of the fat and use that to cook in the future, because that's the animal fats that you need. And honestly, the results will speak for themselves. I will do some follow-ups to this broadcast. I will try and expand upon certain areas and to explain in more detail. But as a general beginner's guide, I think I've covered all the key parts. So thank you for listening. Good luck on your journey. Comment below and tell us how you're getting on. Thank you.